In less than a minute, he's snoring. Huh. I always assumed the shopkeepers live a soft life. And it's true, Peeta's always had enough to eat. But there's something kind of depressing about living your life on stale bread, the hard, dry loaves that no one else wanted. One thing about us, since I bring our food home on a daily basis, most of it is so fresh you have to make sure it isn't going to make a run for it. Somewhere during my shift, the rain stops, not gradually, but all at once. The downpour ends, and there's only the residual drippings of water from branches, the rush of the now overflowing stream below us. A full, beautiful moon emerges, and even without the glasses, I can see outside. I can't decide if the moon is real or merely a projection of the game makers. I know it was full shortly before I left home. Gail and I watched it rise as we hunted into the late hours. How long have I been gone? I'm guessing it's been about 2 weeks in the arena, and there was that week of preparation in the capital. Maybe the moon has completed its cycle. For some reason, I badly want it to be my moon, the same one I see from the woods around District 12. That would give me something to cling to in the surreal world of the arena, where the authenticity of everything is to be doubted. 4 of us left. For the first time, I allow myself to truly think about the possibility that I might make it home, to fame, to wealth, to my own house in the victor's village. My mother and Prim will live there with me. No more fear of hunger, a new kind of freedom. But then what? What would my life be like on a daily basis? Most of it has been consumed with the acquisition of food. Take that away, and I'm not really sure who I am, what my identity is. The idea scares me some. I think of Hamish with all his money. What did his life become? He lives alone, no wife or children, most of his waking hours drunk. I don't want to end up like that. But you won't be alone, I whispered to myself. I have my mother and Prim, well, for the time being, and then... I don't want to think about then. When Prim grows up, my mother passed away. I know I'll never marry, never risk bringing a child into the world. Because if there's one thing becoming a victor doesn't guarantee, it's your children's safety. My kids' names would go right into the reaping balls with everyone else's, and I swear I'll never let that happen. The sun eventually rises, its light slipping through the cracks and illuminating Peeta's face. Who will he transform to if we make it home? This perplexing, good-natured boy who can spin out lies so convincingly the whole of Panem believes him to be hopelessly in love with me. And I'll admit it, there are moments when he makes me believe it myself. At least, we'll be friends, I think. Nothing will change the fact that we've saved each other's lives in here. And beyond that, he'll always be with the boy with the bread. Good friends. Anything beyond that, though, and I feel Gail's gray eyes watching me, watching Peeta, all the way from District 12. Discomfort causes me to move. I scoot over and shake Peeta's shoulder. His eyes open sleepily, and when they focus on me, he pulls me down for a long kiss. We're wasting hunting time, I say, when I finally break away. I wouldn't call it wasting, he says, giving a big stretch as he sits up. So, do we hunt on empty stomachs to give us an edge? Not us, I say. We stuff ourselves to give us staying power. Count me in, Peeta says. But I can see he's surprised when I divide the rest of the stew and rice and hand a heaping plate to him. All this? We'll earn it back today, I say, and we both plow into our plates. Even cold, it's one of the best things I've ever tasted. I abandon my fork and scrape up the last dabs of gravy with my finger. I can feel Effie Trinket shuddering at my... Hey, Effie, watch this, says Peeta. He tosses his fork over his shoulder and literally licks his plate clean with his tongue, making loud, satisfied sounds. Then he blows a kiss out to her in general and calls, "We miss you, Effie!" I cover my mouth with my hand, but I'm laughing. Stop! Cato could be right outside our cave. He grabs my hand away. What do I care? I've got you to protect me now, says Peeta, pulling me to him. Come on, I say in exasperation, extracting myself from his grasp, but not before he gets in another kiss. Once we're packed up and standing outside our cave, our mood shifts to serious. It's as though for the last few days, sheltered by the rocks and the rain, and Cato's preoccupation with Thresh, we were given a respite, a holiday of sorts. Now, although the day is sunny and warm, we both sense we're really back in the games. I hand Peeta my knife, since whatever weapons he once had are long gone, and he slips it into his belt. My last 7 arrows. Of the 12 I sacrificed 3 in the explosion, 2 at the feast. Rattle a bit too loosely in my quiver. I can't afford to lose any more. He'll be hunting us by now, says Peeta. Cato isn't one to wait for his prey to wander by. If he's wounded, I begin. It won't matter, Peeta breaks in. If he can move, he's coming. With all the rain, the stream has overrun its banks by several feet on either side. We stop there to replenish our water. I check the snares I set days ago and come up empty. Not surprising with the weather. Besides, I haven't seen many animals or signs of them in this area. If we want food, we better head back up to my old hunting grounds, I say. Your call. Just tell me what you need me to do, Peeta says. Keep an eye out, I say. Stay on the rocks as much as possible. No sense in leaving him tracks to follow. And listen for both of us. It's clear, at this point, that the explosion destroyed the hearing in my left ear for good. I'd walk in the water to cover our tracks completely, but I'm not sure Peeta's leg could handle the current. Although the drugs have erased the infection, he's still pretty weak. My forehead hurts along the knife cut, but after 3 days the bleeding has stopped. I wear a bandage around my head, though, just in case physical exertion could bring it back. As we head up along the stream, we pass the places where I found Peeta camouflaged in the weeds and mud. One good thing, between the downpour and the flooded banks, all signs of his hiding place have been wiped out. That means that, if need be, we can come back to our cave. Otherwise, I wouldn't risk it with Cato after us. The boulders diminished to rocks that eventually turned to pebbles, and then, to my relief, we're back on pine needles, and the gentle incline of the forest floor. For the first time, I realize we have a problem. Navigating the rocky terrain with a bad leg, well, you're naturally going to make some noise. But even on the smooth bed of needles, Peeta is loud. And I mean loud, loud. As if he's stomping his feet or something. I turn and look at him. What? He asks. We've got to move more quietly, I say. Forget about Cato. You're chasing off every rabbit in a 10-mile radius. Really? He says. Sorry, I didn't know. So we start up again, and he's a tiny bit better. But even with only one working ear, he's making me jump. Can you take your boots off? I suggest. Here? He asks in disbelief, as if I'd asked him to walk barefoot on hot coals or something. I have to remind myself that he's still not used to the woods, that it's the scary, forbidden place beyond the fences of District 12. I think of Gale, with his velvet tread. It's eerie how little sound he makes, even when the leaves have fallen, and it's a challenge to move at all without chasing off game. I feel certain he's laughing back home. Yes, I say patiently. I will too. That way we'll both be quieter. Like I was making any noise. So we both strip off our boots and socks, and, while there's some improvement, I could swear he's making an effort to snap every branch we encounter. Needless to say, although it takes several hours to reach my old camp with Rue, I've shot nothing. If the stream would settle down, fish might be an option, but the current is still too strong. As we stop to rest and drink water, I try to work out a solution. Ideally, I dump Peeta now with some simple root-gathering chore and go hunt, but then he'd be left with only a knife to defend himself against Cato's spears and superior strength. So what I'd really like is to try and conceal him somewhere safe, then go hunt, and come back and collect him. But I have a feeling his ego isn't going to go for that suggestion. Katniss, he says, we need to split up. I know I'm chasing away the game. Only because your legs hurt, I say generously, because really, you can tell that's only a small part of the problem. I know, he says. So why don't you go on? Show me some plants to gather, and that way we'll both be useful. Not if Cato comes and kills you. I try to say it in a nice way, but it still sounds like I think he's a weakling. Surprisingly, he just laughs. Look, I can handle Cato. I fought him before, didn't I? Yeah, and that turned out great. You ended up dying in a mud bank. That's what I wanted to say, but I can't. He did save my life by taking on Cato, after all. I try another tactic. What if you climbed up in a tree and acted as a lookout while I hunted? I say, trying to make it sound like very important work. What if you show me what's edible around here and go get us some meat? He says, mimicking my tone. Just don't go far, in case you need help. I sigh and show him some roots to dig. We do need food, no question. 1 apple, 2 rolls, and a blob of cheese the size of a plum won't last long. I'll just go a short distance and hope Cato is a long way off. I teach him a bird whistle. Not a melody like Ruse, but a simple 2-note whistle, which we can use to communicate that we're all right. Fortunately, he's good at this. Leaving him with the pack, I head off. I feel like I'm 11 again, tethered not to the safety of the fence, but to PETA, allowing myself 20, maybe 30 yards of hunting space. Away from him, though, the woods come alive with animal sounds, reassured by his periodic whistles. I allow myself to drift farther away, and soon have 2 rabbits and a fat squirrel to show for it. I decide it's enough. I can set snares and maybe get some fish. With PETA's roots, this will be enough for now. As I travel the short distance back, I realize we haven't exchanged signals in a while. When my whistle receives no response, I run. In no time, I find the pack, a neat pile of roots beside it. The sheet of plastic has been laid on the ground, where the sun can reach the single layer of berries that covers it. But where is he? PETA! I call out in a panic. PETA! I turn to the rustle of a bush and almost send an arrow through him. Fortunately, I pull my bow at the last second, and it sticks in an oak trunk to his left. He jumps back, flinging a handful of berries into the foliage. My fear comes out as anger. What are you doing? You're supposed to be here, not running around in the woods. I found some berries down by the stream, he says, clearly confused by my outburst. I whistled. Why didn't you whistle back? I snap at him. I didn't hear. The water's too loud, I guess, he says. He crosses and puts his hand on my shoulders. That's when I feel that I'm trembling. I thought Cato killed you, I almost shout. No, I'm fine. PETA wraps his arms around me, but I don't respond. Katniss. I push away, trying to sort out my feelings. If 2 people agree on a signal, they stay in range, because if one of them doesn't answer, they're in trouble, all right? All right, he says. All right, because that's what happened with Rue, and I watched her die, I say. I turn away from him, go to the pack, and open a fresh bottle of water, although I still have some in mine. But I'm not ready to forgive him. I notice the food. The rolls and apples are untouched, but someone's definitely picked away part of the cheese. And you ate without me. I really don't care. I just want something else to be mad about. What? No, I didn't, PETA says. Oh, and I suppose the apples ate the cheese? I say. I don't know what ate the cheese, PETA says slowly and distinctly, as if trying not to lose his temper. But it wasn't me. I've been down by the stream collecting berries. Would you care for some? I would, actually, but I don't want to relent too soon. I do walk over and look at them. I've never seen this type before. No, I have, but not in the arena. These aren't rooseberries, although they resemble them. Nor do they match any I learned about in training. I lean down and scoop up a few, rolling them between my fingers. My father's voice comes back to me. Not these, Katniss. Never these. They're nightlock. You'll be dead before they reach your stomach. Just then, the cannon fires. I whip around, expecting PETA to collapse to the ground, but he only raises his eyebrows. The hovercraft appears 100 yards or so away.